The great chamber floated in the void between stars, a massive station built by 100 different species over 1,000 years. Inside, representatives from across the galaxy gathered in a circular hall so large that the far walls disappeared into artificial mist. Each delegation sat in its own environmental pod, breathing different atmospheres, existing at different temperatures, yet all connected by translation technology that turned thoughts into universal meaning. Today, they discussed Earth. Ambassador Jkara of the Ventali Communion watched the debate with growing concern. Her species had lived for diplomacy, their 4 eyes capable of seeing heat signatures that revealed emotion in most species. Right now, those eyes saw nothing but contempt radiating from nearly every delegation. 50 years, bellowed Commander Thex of the Kresh Dominion, his massive form filling his pod completely. His species stood 3 meters tall, covered in armored plates that had evolved for their high-gravity world. 50 years we have waited for these humans to respond. 50 years of silence. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The Sether representative, a crystalline being that communicated through light pulses, flashed patterns of disdain. The Morvani delegation, small furry creatures with 6 limbs, chittered mockingly. "They received our message," said High Chancellor Vex, an ancient being whose species, the Quinn, had founded the Council millennia ago. "We detected their satellites capturing every transmission. They know we exist. They simply choose not to answer." Jkara raised one of her 4 hands. "Perhaps they need more time. Their world was divided when we first made contact. Internal conflicts, environmental damage, political chaos. Maybe they are not ready." Commander Thex laughed, a sound like grinding rocks. "Not ready? Or simply too primitive to matter? I have seen their broadcasts, Ambassador. They still use chemical rockets." "Chemical? My ancestors abandoned such toys 10,000 years ago." The chamber erupted in laughter. Even the usually stoic Quinn delegation showed amusement in their own subtle way. "I propose we claim their system," Thex continued, his voice growing stronger. "The 3rd planet is useless with those apes crawling on it. But the outer system has resources. Gas giants, asteroid belts, frozen worlds perfect for mining. Why should such wealth be wasted on creatures who cannot even leave their own gravity well?" More voices joined in support. The Kresh were warriors, aggressive and expansionist, but even peaceful species nodded at the logic. Resources mattered in the galaxy. Territory mattered. Respect mattered. And Earth had shown none. Jkara felt her blood cooling, a sign of stress in her species. She had studied the humans carefully over the decades. Something about their silence felt wrong, not cowardly, but calculated. She had watched their entertainment broadcasts, their news reports, their scientific publications. Humans were clever, perhaps too clever. "High Chancellor," she said, her voice cutting through the noise, "I urge caution. We know little about humanity's true capabilities." "We know enough," Thex replied. "They wage war on themselves with ballistic weapons. They poison their own atmosphere. They argue over invisible lines on their planet's surface. They are children, Ambassador. Dangerous children who need to be taught their place in the galaxy." High Chancellor Vex raised a crystalline hand, and silence fell immediately. The Quinn had earned their leadership through age and wisdom, and even the Kresh respected their authority. "The Council will vote," Vex announced. "We give Earth 1 more standard year to respond to our invitation. If they remain silent, their system will be declared open territory. Any council member may claim it according to established protocols." The vote was swift and nearly unanimous. Only Jkara and 2 other delegations opposed. The humans had 1 year. As the chamber emptied, Jkara remained in her pod, staring at the holographic display of Earth's solar system. It looked so small, so insignificant. 1 yellow star among billions, 1 blue planet among trillions. Yet something nagged at her mind. She pulled up the historical records. 50 years ago, when the first Council probe entered Earth's system, humanity had just begun reaching toward their moon. Their technology was crude. Their society fractured. But the probe's sensors had detected something else. Something subtle. Radio signals with mathematical precision. Satellites, already in orbit. Nuclear weapons that showed understanding of atomic forces. The humans were primitive, yes, but they were not stupid. Jacques switched to recent surveillance data. Earth's electromagnetic emissions had not decreased. If anything, they had grown more complex, more encrypted. The satellites in orbit around their planet had multiplied. And something else caught her attention in the data. Several probes had detected unusual energy signatures in Earth's outer system over the past decade, but they had been dismissed as sensor errors or natural phenomena. What if they were not errors? Far away, in a bunker deep beneath the Colorado mountains, Admiral Sarah Chen stood before a wall of screens. Each showed a different angle of the council chamber, captured by microscopic drones that had infiltrated the station years ago. She had watched every moment of the debate. Around her, officers and scientists worked at their stations, monitoring feeds from across the galaxy. Humanity's intelligence network had grown sophisticated over 5 decades of careful listening. "They gave us a year," said General Yuki Tanaka, standing beside Chen. "The creche won't wait that long." Chen smiled, a cold expression that never reached her eyes. "I know. They never do. Warriors like Thex lack patience. Should we prepare the fleet? The fleet has been ready for 3 years, General. But make sure the Saturn yards complete the final squadron. I want overwhelming force when the moment comes." She turned back to the screens, watching the alien delegates depart in their ships, each one convinced of humanity's insignificance. Let them think it. Let them plan their invasion. Let them come to Earth's doorstep expecting easy prey. They would learn the truth soon enough. Silence, after all, was not surrender. Sometimes it was the sound of a predator holding its breath before the strike. Dr. James Okonkwo floated in zero gravity, watching through the observation window as construction drones assembled the final pieces of humanity's greatest achievement. The ship stretched for 2 kilometers, its hull made from alloys that had not existed a decade ago. Weapons ports lined its sides, each housing technology, reverse-engineered from alien designs but improved by human innovation. "Beautiful, isn't she?" said a voice behind him. Okonkwo turned to see General Yuki Tanaka drift through the doorway of the observation deck. The general was old now, her hair completely gray, but her eyes remained sharp as ever. "The Indomitable," Okonkwo said, reading the name painted on the hull. "Admiral Chen's flagship. Is she truly ready? She'll have to be. Intelligence suggests the creche are mobilizing." Tanaka pulled herself to the window, magnetic boots clicking as she locked to the floor. "Hard to believe we built all this in secret." Okonkwo laughed quietly. "Not so secret anymore. We have 347 capital ships, 2,000 frigates, and 15,000 support craft scattered across the solar system. You cannot hide that forever. We hid it long enough." The old scientist looked out at the construction yards surrounding them. They floated in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, hidden among millions of rocks that had existed for billions of years. Humanity had claimed hundreds of asteroids, hollowed them out, and turned them into factories, shipyards, and research stations. Here, far from Earth's surface, they had built an empire in secret. It had started simply enough. When the first alien message arrived 50 years ago, Earth's governments had panicked. Every scientist, every military leader, every politician had understood the same truth immediately. Humanity was not ready. They were centuries behind in technology, divided by borders and ideology, and completely unprepared for a galaxy full of advanced civilizations. So, they had made a choice. They would not answer. They would not reveal their weakness. Instead, they would use the time to catch up. "Do you remember the early days?" Okonkwo asked. "The debates?" Tanaka nodded. "I was just a captain then. I remember the arguments in the UN. Half wanted to make contact immediately. They thought the aliens would help us, share their technology, welcome us to the galactic community. Naive, perhaps, but hopeful. Tanaka's expression grew distant. The other half saw the truth. The aliens' message was not an invitation to equality. It was a summons. Come, join us, and accept your place in our hierarchy. Be the newest, weakest, poorest members of their club. Okonkwo pulled up a holographic display, showing Earth as it had been 50 years ago. A world covered in lights. Yes, but also a world covered in borders. Nations that had spent centuries fighting each other. Religions that had waged holy wars. Corporations that valued profit over survival. The alien message changed everything, he said softly. It gave us a common enemy. Or rather, a common challenge. The unification, Tanaka said. History will debate whether it was humanity's finest moment or its most desperate, but they both knew the truth. The governments of Earth had unified in secret, creating an organization that operated above all nations. Resources had been redirected. Scientific communities had merged. Military forces had integrated. All in absolute secrecy, all with a single goal. Survive first contact with a galaxy that would not respect weakness. The greatest scientific minds of Earth had studied every transmission from the aliens. They had analyzed the technology visible in the images, the physics implied by faster-than-light travel, the energy signatures of their ships. And slowly, carefully, they had begun to understand. We could not have done this without their arrogance, Okonkwo said. They sent us information freely, never imagining we could understand it. They broadcast their locations, their capabilities, their politics. They gave us everything we needed to know. Live. While we gave them nothing, Okonkwo remembered his own breakthrough. The moment that had changed everything. He had been studying alien drive systems, trying to understand how they bent space-time to achieve faster-than-light travel. The alien approach was elegant but inefficient, requiring massive amounts of energy. But what if you combined it with quantum tunneling? What if you approached the problem not as bending space, but as creating temporary bridges through it? The human method was rougher, more violent in its execution, but it required a fraction of the power. Human ships could jump farther and faster than most alien vessels. They had turned their late arrival to the galactic community into an advantage. All across the solar system, similar innovations had occurred. Human weapons designers had looked at alien plasma cannons and thought, what if we accelerated the plasma particles even faster? Human shield technology had started with alien force fields but added layers of redundancy and adaptive algorithms. Human ship armor had incorporated alien materials but arranged them in patterns inspired by Earth's own natural structures. Humanity had not copied the aliens. They had learned from them and then improved. The Kuiper stations are reporting full operational status, Tanaka said, checking her datapad. The fusion generators are online. The jump gates are calibrated. Every ship in the fleet is crewed and ready. How many people know the full truth? Maybe 10 million. Scientists, engineers, military personnel, government officials, everyone directly involved. Tanaka paused. The rest of Earth thinks we have a modest space program. Some satellites, a few research stations, plans for a Mars colony someday. They have no idea we have colonized half the solar system. Okonkwo felt the weight of that secret. Billions of humans living their lives, completely unaware that their species had transformed itself. They went to work, raised families, worried about mundane problems, while above them an entire civilization had been built in silence. Do you think we were right to keep it secret? He asked. Tanaka considered the question carefully. If we had told the people the truth, there would have been panic, demands to make contact, protests, possibly civil war. Some nations would have tried to make their own deals with the aliens. The unity we needed would have shattered. A comfortable lie versus a terrifying truth. Not a lie, a delay. They will know soon enough. Tanaka gestured to the Indomitable. When that ship takes flight, when the human fleet reveals itself to the galaxy, everyone will know. Earth will know. The aliens will know. The age of humanity's silence ends. Okonkwo watched another construction drone weld a final plate onto the ship's hull. Somewhere in the distance, a transport carrying supplies from the Ceres refineries fired its thrusters. A patrol craft marked with Earth's unified flag drifted past, its sensors sweeping the asteroid field for any sign of alien probes. "Let them come," he said quietly. "Let the Kresh come, with their invasion fleet. Let them think Earth is helpless. They will learn what humanity has become." Tanaka smiled grimly. "We stayed silent for 50 years. Not from fear, not from weakness. We stayed silent because we were not ready to speak. And now? Now we are ready to roar." Commander Thex stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Fist of Dominion, and watched the blue planet grow larger on his view screen. Behind him, 200 warships followed in perfect formation. The Kresh invasion fleet had crossed 30 light-years in 3 weeks, and now Earth hung before them like ripe fruit waiting to be plucked. "Pathetic," Thex muttered, studying the tactical display. "They have satellites. Yes, but ancient ones. Chemical propulsion. Radio communications. They are insects pretending to be a civilization." His second in command, a younger Kresh named Voral, checked the sensors. "The satellites are attempting to scan us, Commander. Their technology is barely capable of detecting our ships. Let them look. Let them see their doom approaching." Thex bared his teeth in what his species considered a smile. "Send a message to the planet. Tell the humans that the Kresh Dominion claims this system. They have one of their hours to evacuate their orbital stations. After that, we begin bombardment." The message transmitted. Thex expected panic, desperate pleas, perhaps surrender. Instead, he received silence. The same infuriating silence the humans had maintained for 50 years. "Commander," Voral said, confusion in his voice. "The human satellites are moving." Thex looked at the tactical display. The primitive satellites that had been orbiting Earth were indeed moving, but not fleeing. They were positioning themselves between the Kresh fleet and the planet. "They think those toys can stop us?" Thex laughed. "Target the satellites. Destroy them." Plasma cannons charged across the Kresh fleet. Targeting solutions locked. Fingers moved toward firing controls. Then space twisted. The sensors exploded with warnings. Energy signatures appeared across the solar system. Massive power readings that should not exist. The tactical display lit up with new contacts. Hundreds of them. Appearing from nowhere. "Report!" Thex roared. "Ships, Commander! Hundreds of ships!" They were cloaked, hidden throughout the system. "They are decloaking now." Voral's voice carried an emotion. Thex had never heard from his second. "Fear. Commander, these ships are not primitive. They are reading as modern capital-class vessels. Carrier groups, battle cruisers, destroyers. Impossible." But the sensors did not lie. Where there had been empty space moments before, now floated a fleet. And not just any fleet. The ship directly ahead of the Kresh formation was enormous. 2 kilometers of angular armor and weapon ports. Its hull bore markings in human writing and a single name: Indomitable. A transmission came through, audio and visual. A human female appeared on the screen. She wore a dark blue uniform with markings that suggested high rank. Her face was calm, almost amused. "Commander Thex of the Kresh Dominion," she said in perfect galactic standard. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Command. You have entered this system with hostile intent. You have 1 minute to power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. This is your only warning." Thex's blood boiled hot. "You dare threaten me? You are primitives. Chemical rockets and radio waves. Your silence proved Your weakness. Admiral Chen's smile grew colder. Our silence proved you make assumptions too quickly. 50 years ago, you would have crushed us easily. We knew it. So we stayed quiet and learned from you. We watched, we listened, we built. And you never suspected because you were too busy laughing. I will not be lectured by an ape. All ships, attack formation. Destroy them. The Kresh fleet surged forward. Weapons charging. 200 warships that had conquered a dozen star systems. 200 vessels crewed by warriors who had never known defeat. They made it exactly 30 seconds before the human trap closed. The satellites that the Kresh had dismissed as primitive suddenly activated. Not weapons, but powerful jamming systems that disrupted Kresh targeting sensors. At the same moment, human ships launched fighters, small craft that moved faster than anything the Kresh had encountered. They swarmed around the Kresh formation like angry insects, their weapons striking at engine clusters and shield generators. Thex watched in horror as his tactical display dissolved into chaos. His ships were firing. Yes, but hitting nothing. The human vessels danced through their plasma volleys, their movements too fast, too precise. And when the humans fired back, their weapons struck true. The first Kresh destroyer exploded in a ball of fusion fire. Then another. Then 3 more, in rapid succession. How? Voral whispered. How are they doing this? Admiral Chen's voice came through again, calm and educational. We studied your tactics for 50 years, Commander. Every battle you fought, we watched. We know how you move, how you think, what patterns you favor. You are predictable. We are not. A human battlecruiser materialized directly above the Fist of Dominion, appearing from a jump point that should not have been possible at such close range. Its weapons locked onto the Kresh flagship. You wanted our system, Chen continued. You wanted our resources. You thought we were too weak to resist. But you made a mistake, Commander. You came to our home. The human ship fired. Not plasma weapons or missiles, but something else. Rails that accelerated solid projectiles to impossible velocities. The rounds punched through the Fist of Dominion's shields like they were paper, tearing into the armor beneath. Thex stumbled as his ship shook. Alarms screamed. Fires erupted on multiple decks. Around him, his fleet was dying. Kresh warships exploded, or went dark. Their crews dead, or dying. The humans were not just winning, they were dominating. Retreat, Thex ordered. All ships, retreat. But the humans had surrounded them. Every escape route led to more human vessels. They had been herded, Thex realized. Positioned exactly where the humans wanted them. This was not a battle. It was an execution. We surrender. Voral screamed into the communications system. We surrender. The human attacks stopped instantly. Not gradually, not with final volleys, but immediately. Every human ship ceased fire in the same moment, responding to orders with perfect discipline. Admiral Chen appeared on screen again. Commander Thex, you will power down your weapons and lower your shields. You and your crew will be taken prisoner and held for trial by the Galactic Council. Your ships will be seized, and you will carry a message back to the Council. What message? Thex asked, his voice barely a whisper. That humanity is no longer silent. The battle, if it could be called that, had lasted 7 minutes. Of 200 Kresh warships, 143 were destroyed. The rest were disabled or surrendered. Not a single human ship was lost. A handful had minor damage. As Kresh warriors were marched onto human prison transports, as their weapons were catalogued, and their wounded treated by human medical teams, Thex understood the magnitude of his failure. He had thought humans were weak because they were silent. He had mistaken patience for cowardice. The galaxy had mocked Earth for 50 years. They had laughed at the quiet planet that refused to join them. They had called humans primitive, backwards, irrelevant. They would not laugh anymore. Aboard the Indomitable, Admiral Chen watched the last Kresh ship power down its weapons. Around her, the bridge crew worked efficiently, coordinating the capture of prisoners, and the salvage of enemy vessels. Young men and women who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Send the battle recording to the Galactic Council, she ordered. Make sure every species sees it. I want them to understand exactly what happened here. Yes, Admiral. Chen allowed herself a small smile. The humans had not wanted war. They had prepared for it. Yes. But they had hoped to avoid it. The Kresh had forced their hand, but perhaps that was for the best. Now the galaxy would know the truth. Earth was not weak. Earth was not primitive. And Earth was definitely not staying silent anymore. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in absolute chaos. Representatives from 100 species shouted at each other, their translation devices struggling to keep up with the volume of competing voices. In the center of the chamber, a holographic display showed the Battle of Sol on repeat. Human ships tearing through the Kresh fleet with terrifying efficiency. Ambassador Jakara watched the scene with a mixture of vindication and dread. She had warned them. She had told them that humanity's silence was suspicious. But no one had listened. High Chancellor Vex called for order, his ancient voice somehow cutting through the noise. Silence. We will have order. The chamber gradually quieted, though tension filled the air like static electricity. The facts are clear, Vex said, his crystalline form pulsing with light. The Kresh Dominion attacked Earth's system without Council authorization. They have been defeated. 143 ships destroyed, 57 captured, over 30,000 Kresh warriors dead or imprisoned. By a species that was supposed to be primitive, added the Sether representative, their crystalline body flashing angry red patterns. A species that was supposed to be using chemical rockets and radio communication. Someone explained to me how they built a fleet capable of destroying the Kresh. They lied to us, snarled the Morvani delegate. They pretended to be weak, while building weapons in secret. This is deception of the highest order. Jakara rose from her seat. They did not lie. We assumed. We looked at 50-year-old data and convinced ourselves that nothing had changed. We mocked them for being silent instead of asking ourselves why they chose silence. You defend them? The Morvani snapped. I state facts. The humans received our invitation 50 years ago. We offered them nothing except subordinate membership in our council. We showed them a galaxy where strength matters and the weak are exploited. Then we are surprised when they chose to become strong before joining us. Before anyone could respond, the holographic display changed. A new transmission was coming through. Broadcast on frequencies the council used for official communications. The image resolved into a human female, middle-aged with dark skin and gray-streaked hair. She wore formal attire and stood before a flag that combined symbols from Earth's various nations. Greetings to the Galactic Council, she said, her voice steady and diplomatic. I am President Amara Osei of the United Earth Government. For 50 years, you have waited for our response to your invitation. Today, I provide that response. The chamber fell silent. Every representative leaned forward, desperate to hear what the humans would say. 50 years ago, humanity was divided. We fought each other over borders, resources, ideologies. We poisoned our own world and questioned whether we deserved to survive. Then you contacted us, and we realized the truth. In a galaxy of advanced civilizations, Earth was a child, playing with matches. Osei paused, letting her words sink in. You offered us membership in your council. But your message made something clear. You were not offering partnership. You were offering us the chance to be the newest, weakest, poorest members of your organization. You expected us to be grateful for scraps from your table. The Morvani delegate started to object, but Vex silenced them with a gesture. So we made a choice, Osei continued. We would not respond until we could speak from a position of strength. We unified our world. We studied your technology. We built our own fleet, and we waited. You deceived us, someone shouted. No, Osei said firmly. We were silent. Silence is not deception. You chose to interpret our silence as weakness. That was your mistake, not our crime. She gestured, and new images appeared on the display. Detailed scans of Kresh homeworlds, tactical analysis of Morvani defense grids, trade route maps for the Sether systems, data on every major species in the Council, all clearly gathered over years of careful intelligence work. We know where you live, Osei said quietly. We know your military capabilities. We know your economic systems. We know your politics, your alliances, your rivalries. We have prepared contingencies for conflicts with any council member. We did this because we learned from you that the galaxy does not reward weakness. The chamber erupted again. Species that had felt superior to humanity moments ago now felt exposed, vulnerable. The humans had not just built a fleet, they had built an intelligence network that rivaled anything the Council possessed. Are you threatening us? Vex asked, his voice carrying warning. No, Osei replied. I am offering you context. You need to understand that humanity is not the primitive species you dismissed. We are a major power now, whether you acknowledge it or not, but we do not seek domination. We seek partnership on equal terms. She paused, and her expression softened slightly. We have also studied your medical technology, your agricultural methods, your scientific knowledge. We have learned much from you. And we are grateful. In the spirit of that gratitude, we offer a gift. New data streams flooded the Council networks. Medical research, primarily, focusing on cellular regeneration and disease treatment. The formulas were human innovations, improvements on alien concepts that could save billions of lives across multiple species. We share this freely, Osei said. No cost, no obligations. This is what humans can contribute to the galactic community. Not just weapons, but healing. Not just strength, but knowledge. Jakara felt warmth spreading through her body, a sign of approval in her species. This was masterstroke of diplomacy. Show your teeth, then offer your hand. What do you want from us? Vex asked. Respect, Osei said simply. Not fear. Not submission. Respect. We want to join the Galactic Council as equals. We want trade agreements that benefit both parties. We want to explore the galaxy and meet new species. We want to contribute to galactic civilization. And if we refuse? The Morvani delegate asked. Then we will continue alone, Osei replied. We do not need your permission to exist, but we would prefer cooperation to isolation. The choice is yours. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. High Chancellor Vex looked around at the gathered representatives. We will vote, he said. Not on whether to allow humanity into the council, but on whether to offer them full membership with all rights and responsibilities. The debate lasted for hours. Some species argued for rejection, claiming humans were dangerous and unpredictable. Others pushed for immediate acceptance, seeing opportunity in alliance with this new power. Still, others wanted restrictions, limitations on human expansion and military growth. Jakara spoke passionately in favor of full membership. We made assumptions about humanity and paid for it with Kresh blood. Do we want to make the same mistake twice? The humans have shown both power and restraint. They destroyed the Kresh fleet, but offered mercy to survivors. They revealed their intelligence network, but also shared medical knowledge. They seek partnership, not conquest. I say we accept. When the vote came, it was closer than Jakara expected. But ultimately, pragmatism won. Humanity was offered full council membership, with only minor restrictions on military expansion for the first decade. In her office on Earth, President Osei received the news with quiet satisfaction. 50 years of silence, 50 years of preparation, and it had worked. Humanity had gambled that they could build strength faster than the galaxy would lose patience. They had been right. Admiral Chen stood beside her, looking out at the night sky. It is not over, she said. Some of them will never trust us. Some will plot revenge for the Kresh defeat. We have made enemies today. Actor. We have made enemies today. Yes, Osei agreed. But we have also made allies. And more importantly, we have made a statement. Earth is no longer a world to be ignored or exploited. We are players in galactic politics now. We stayed silent for so long. Osei smiled. We were never truly silent, Admiral. We were listening. And now, finally, we have something worth saying. 1 year had passed since humanity spoke to the galaxy, and the universe had changed. Dr. James Okonkwo stood in the observation dome of New Horizon Station, humanity's first permanent settlement beyond the solar system. The station orbited a planet humans had named Promise, a world in a binary star system 40 light-years from Earth. The planet itself was not habitable for humans, but its moons held water and minerals. More importantly, it represented something greater than resources. It represented humanity's future among the stars. Still impressive every time I see it, said Ambassador Jakara, floating into the dome. Her species adapted well to low gravity, and she had become a frequent visitor to human installations over the past year. We owe much of this to you, Okonkwo said. Your advocacy in the council made our expansion possible. I simply told the truth. Others chose to listen or not. Jakara joined him at the window. How many colonies now? 12 permanent settlements, 37 mining outposts, and 6 deep space research stations. We share 3 systems with Ventali partners and 2 with the Quinn. Okonkwo smiled. A year ago, we had never left our solar system. Now, we are scattered across 50 light-years of space. Your species adapts quickly. We have to. The galaxy does not wait for slow learners. Below them, construction drones assembled the skeleton of a new habitat ring. Human and Ventali engineers worked side by side, combining their technologies to create something neither species could have built alone. It was a scene repeated across multiple systems now, as humanity integrated into the galactic community. But integration had not been smooth. Admiral Sarah Chen reviewed reports in her office aboard the Indomitable, now stationed in orbit around Earth. The news was mixed. Trade agreements with 17 species had brought new technology and resources to humanity. Medical exchanges had saved millions of lives across multiple worlds. Cultural programs had introduced humans to alien art, philosophy, and science. But there were problems too. The Kresh Dominion had been humbled, but not destroyed. Their territory had been reduced by council decree, and their military limited. War crimes trials were ongoing, with Commander Thex facing execution for the unauthorized invasion. But many Kresh still burned with resentment, and intelligence suggested extremist factions were planning revenge. The Morvani had attempted to sabotage human trade routes twice in the past 6 months. Subtle actions that were difficult to prove but impossible to ignore. They saw humanity as dangerous upstarts who had risen too quickly. And then there were the Hegira, a species that had remained neutral in all council politics for centuries. They had sent cryptic warnings about forces beyond the known galaxy that took notice when civilizations grew too powerful too quickly. Chen did not know if this was genuine concern or veiled threat. Admiral, her communications officer called. Priority message. From President Osei. Chen accepted the transmission. Osei's face appeared on her screen, and the president looked tired. The past year had aged her visibly. Sarah, we have a situation. The exploration vessel Pathfinder has encountered an unknown species in the Kepler 442 system. Captain Rodriguez is requesting instructions. Chen felt her pulse quicken. First contact with a species unknown to the Council was a momentous event, one that could define humanity's place in galactic politics. What do we know? Very little. They are biological, roughly our size, and their technology appears pre-spaceflight but advanced. Similar to Earth. 70 years ago, the Pathfinder detected their radio signals and investigated. Does the Council know? Not yet. I wanted your input first. Osei leaned forward. This is our chance to show what humanity has learned. The Council treated us as primitives, and we resented it. Now we find a species in the same situation. How do we approach them? Chen considered carefully. Not with arrogance, not with demands. We offer information and let them choose. My thoughts exactly. I will send instructions to Captain Rodriguez. On the bridge of the Pathfinder, Captain Maria Rodriguez studied the planet below. Lights covered its surface, indicating industrial civilization. Radio and television broadcasts filled the electromagnetic spectrum. Satellites orbited the planet, primitive but functional. It reminded her of Earth before first contact. A world on the edge of reaching for the stars, unaware of the vast galaxy surrounding them. Prepare a message, she ordered. Audio and visual. Keep it simple. Her crew worked quickly, assembling a transmission in the species' dominant language, which their computers had analyzed from broadcast signals. People of this world. Rodriguez spoke into the recorder, knowing her words would be translated. My name is Maria Rodriguez. I represent humanity, a species from a planet called Earth. We come in peace. We know you are not alone in the universe because we, too, discovered we were not alone. This can be frightening, but it does not have to be. You have time. You have choices. We offer information freely, with no demands or expectations. If you wish to communicate, we will listen. If you wish us to leave, we will respect that decision. The galaxy is vast, and you are part of it. But you decide when and how you join. The message transmitted. Now they would wait. Back on Earth, a young girl named Maya Chen, daughter of the Admiral's younger brother, sat in her classroom, learning about the galaxy. Her teacher, a hologram representing dozens of species, taught about the great civilizations that filled the stars. Maya's classmates included not just human children but also young Ventali and Quinn, participating remotely from their homeworlds. This generation, Maya's generation, would grow up knowing the galaxy was full of life. They would not fear the stars, but embrace them. They would make friends with alien children and learn from alien teachers. They would build a future where species cooperated instead of competed. It was not perfect. There were still conflicts, still prejudices, still dangers, but it was better than what had come before. In the council chambers, now including a human delegation, Ambassador Jakara watched as representatives debated resource allocation for joint projects. Humans sat among them, equals rather than supplicants. Their voices carried weight. Their votes mattered. High Chancellor Vex approached her after the session ended. You were right about them, he said quietly. I doubted, but you were right. They surprised everyone. Jakara replied. Including themselves, I think. Do you believe they will continue to be peaceful? Power corrupts. They have risen so quickly. Jakara thought about the question carefully. Humans are complicated. They can be violent, yes, but they can also be remarkably compassionate. They understand suffering because they have suffered. They value freedom because they have fought for it. Will they always be peaceful? No. No species is. But I believe they will try. And that is all we can ask. Thanks for watching. And well see. And last about, will they be conresses? And we're 40. Cian 2. I made in 7. And Luning Resin. And Luning. Months passed. The Pathfinder received a response from the newly discovered species. They wanted information. They wanted to learn. Captain Rodriguez began the slow process of cultural exchange, sharing knowledge about the galaxy while respecting their autonomy. On promise, the joint human-Ventali colony celebrated its first harvest. Crops engineered to grow in alien soil produced food that both species could eat. It was a small thing, but it represented something larger. Cooperation, understanding, hope. Admiral Chen retired from active military service, satisfied that Earth's defenses were strong and its future secure. She spent her final years teaching at the newly established Academy of Interspecies Relations, sharing what humanity had learned with the next generation. Dr. Okonkwo continued his research, now collaborating with scientists from a dozen species. Together, they pushed the boundaries of physics, engineering, and biology. The technologies they developed would transform the galaxy. President Osei served her final term and stepped down, replaced by a younger leader who had grown up during the years of silence. The new president had different challenges but continued the careful diplomacy that had served humanity well. And across the galaxy, in 1,000 different places, humans and aliens worked together. They built stations and cities. They explored unknown regions of space. They made art and music that blended their cultures. They argued and sometimes fought. But more often, they cooperated. Humanity had stayed silent for 50 years, while the galaxy mocked them. They had been called primitive, cowardly, irrelevant. They had endured the contempt of species that assumed silence meant weakness. But they had been wrong. Humanity's silence had been strategic. They had listened when they could not speak. They had learned when they could not act. They had built strength when others expected surrender. And when they finally spoke, when the human fleet finally took flight, the galaxy learned a lesson it would not forget. Silence is not weakness. Sometimes it is simply wisdom waiting for the right moment. In her quarters on New Horizon Station, Maya Chen, now a young woman studying xenobiology, looked out at the stars. She had grown up in a galaxy that knew humanity existed, that respected humanity's place, that accepted humans as equals. She did not remember the years of silence. For her generation, humanity had always been among the stars, and that was exactly what her grandmother's generation had fought for. Not glory, not conquest, but the simple right to exist in the galaxy without fear, to explore without permission, to stand equal among the ancient species that had dismissed them. The galaxy had mocked Earth for staying silent. They were not mocking anymore.